Greetings to all viewers of the Freedom TV channel. Thank you for being with us. This is our time, and here are the top news stories at this hour. I'm Yuri Kalinich in the studio. Hello? Russia launched 84 drones at Ukraine last night, more than 50 of which were Shaheds, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. Ukrainian air defenders neutralized 60 UAVs of various types. 23 strike drones hit 10 different locations, but Russian forces attacked Zaporizhzhia during the night. Drones exploded in a residential neighborhood. A local resident was injured and more than 20 houses were damaged. Windows and doors were blown out there. The explosion also partially destroyed a single-story residential building. Another two-story house burned down completely. Right now, rescuers and utility workers are clearing the debris and helping residents deal with the aftermath of the attack.
Well, there's nothing left, nothing at all. There's no second floor. And the first one is, as they say, it needs to be dismantled. Yesterday, until about 9 o'clock, we were clearing out the glass and everything else there. My brother said, I'll stay here for the night. I said, no, come on, let's go to my place then. So as they say, I convinced him. In this case, as they say, God spared us.
The Russian army continues to attack peaceful cities in the Donetsk region. They struck Kramatorsk with 9 Shahed-type drones. 7 of them fell outside the city. 1 dove into a warehouse and another attacked one of the central streets. At the site of the impact, trees were knocked down, apartment buildings and power lines were damaged. According to the police, 2 people were injured. And in Sloviansk, Russian forces attacked a residential area with a Molnia 2 drone. One of the houses there was damaged. Fortunately, there were no casualties. In addition, FPV drones have started targeting vehicles along the MO3 highway between Izium and Sloviansk, according to the Service for Restoration and Infrastructure Development in the Kharkiv region. They urge drivers to take the situation into account and, if possible, avoid traveling on that section of the road. The targeting of civilian and military vehicles by Russian drones is being linked to the intensification of hostilities throughout the region. The plenary session of the European Parliament is ongoing in Strasbourg. It will continue until Thursday. But today, debates on security guarantees for Ukraine are taking place there. Other important events are also scheduled. Our correspondent in Europe, Vitaly Sizov, will tell us more about them. He is joining us live from Strasbourg. Vitaly, welcome. Please tell us what's happening in the European Parliament and what the European deputies are talking about and planning to discuss.
Good afternoon, Yuri. The plenary meeting started yesterday, but yesterday was more of a technical day. The plenary session was opened by the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. She began it with a minute of silence in memory of all the victims of the tragedies that have occurred either within the European Union or in neighboring countries. This minute of silence was also in honor of the memory of the former Speaker of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, Andriy Paruby, who was killed in Lviv.
Dear colleagues, the war in Ukraine continues, and although we will continue to strive for peace and support all efforts in this direction, we understand that it must be a true peace, a peace based on dignity and justice. We were shocked by the horrific murder of the former chairman of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, Andriy Paruby, in Lviv 2 weeks ago. Tragedies like the death of Mr. Paruby only strengthen our support for Ukrainians in their fight for freedom and democracy.
And today marks the main day, with the key discussions, and the main issue today is the discussion about security guarantees for Ukraine and the situation in Ukraine. The High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas, spoke. She emphasized that Russia does not want peace, and now every effort must be made to bring it to the negotiating table. According to her, the European Union has already provided Ukraine with assistance totaling about 170 billion euros, of which more than 60 billion is military aid. And this year, the countries of the European Union plan to provide military aid totaling 25 billion euros. She spoke about the progress of the initiative to supply 2 million shells to Ukraine. Let me remind you, back in March, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appealed to European allies with a request to supply 2 million artillery shells worth 5 billion euros. And it was Kallas who spoke about how this initiative is being implemented.
This year alone, the member states are providing more than ever before, 25 billion euros. To date, they have also supplied 80% of our target of 2 million shells. We are aiming for 100% by October. And all of this is so that Ukraine can defend itself, protect its civilian population, and push back against aggression.
Kallas called for tougher sanctions against Russia because they are having an effect. She named the amount, stating how much, according to her, Russia has lost due to the sanctions. According to her, there are now already 444 ships on the shadow fleet list and, well, tankers. But even more work needs to be done to deprive Russia of its revenues as much as possible, especially income from the sale of oil and gas.
International sanctions have deprived Russia of at least $450 billion in military resources, including $154 billion in oil sales revenue. Europe used to be one of the largest markets for Russian energy resources, but that is no longer the case. We hope that by 2027 we will not be importing any Russian gas or oil at all.
Kallas also spoke about the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, which took place last week in Paris. She emphasized that this is an effective tool, and the coalition's plans to maintain peace are being noticed in Moscow, in Russia, precisely because this tool is effective. Russian President Putin criticized it and threatened what he called foreign troops. But in reality, these are the troops of Ukraine's allies in the event that they are deployed. And Kallas, she specifically emphasized that it is not up to Russia to decide how Europe, and she considers Ukraine a part of Europe, will defend itself. She also stressed that the European Union is currently working to change the mandate of its mission to support Ukraine so that European military personnel can train Ukrainians on Ukrainian territory. There was also a speech by the European Commissioner for Enlargement, Marta Kos. She said that Ukraine is already ready to open the first cluster for negotiations on joining the European Union. She called for this to be done as quickly as possible to open the cluster. She also mentioned that all the clusters in the negotiations with Ukraine will be ready to open within a few weeks, but after that, it will be up to the position of the European Council, the Council of the European Union. And she called on the Council to support the start of negotiations on Ukraine's accession to the European Union. We continue our work here in the European Parliament. Today, we also discussed the European Commission's report on the situation in Ukraine for 2023-2024, and there will be a vote on the resolution regarding these reports. It's very interesting. There are many points regarding Ukraine, but we will report on this later once it has actually been voted on or once the voting procedure itself begins. Also, today there will be a press conference here by the Defense Commissioner Andrius Kubilius, and he will talk about the implementation of the European Union's defense program, the SAFE initiative. This is a loan program totaling 150 billion euros to strengthen defense, and Ukraine can also participate in this program. Back to the studio.
Vitaly, thank you very much for the detailed information. Let me remind you that we were joined by Vitaly Sizov from Strasbourg, where, I remind you, a session of the European Parliament is currently taking place. We continue to follow the news and will definitely keep you informed about new statements and decisions at the level of the European Parliament.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.